Bruce Lee was considered to be at the peak form of human fitness, and this went beyond his martial arts skills or even his time in the gym. This also went down to his flexibility. There's this classic scene of Bruce Lee where every time before a fight, he would warm himself up and do some stretches, and one of these stretches was basically him folding himself in half at the waist. And I was always amazed at this because I had the worst flexibility my entire life. I remember when I was in elementary school and we'd have the presidential fitness tests and we'd go through all the tests, and the one thing that I failed at terribly was the stretch test. We would have this like metal box thing that would measure how far you stretched by trying to push this little notch further and further down. I wasn't even able to touch that, which completely destroyed my ability to get the top score in the presidential fitness test. And ever since then, I was always lacking heavily in my flexibility. And my entire life, I didn't really stretch at all because I didn't have a routine in order to get me to continually do it. That was until the last year when I started to develop and really focus on stretching and gaining my flexibility back. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how to get just as flexible as Bruce Lee and to be able to consistently stretch every day in order to continually get better and better. Before I get into my stretching routine, I want to give you an idea of how I think about stretching. Most people see stretching, they're like, oh, I'll just do all these stretches, count to 10 seconds or something, and then go to the next stretch. This gets kind of boring for me because I'm not a fan of just sitting down and stretching and just hurting the entire time because I'm so inflexible. So I changed up how I thought about stretching to be more similar to how I think about weightlifting, which is doing a certain amount of sets of reps and continuously seeing progress by seeing the weight increase over time. So what I did was I broke down my stretches into sets. So I had 4 sets, and in between each set, I would do a calisthenics workout or some kind of exercise to break up the monotony of just stretching. Also, I would try to keep track of how far I stretched, and every time I do it, I try to at least hit that, if not a little further. So now let's jump into the stretching routine. First, before I even stretch, I start by doing a calisthenics exercise. In this case, I was doing pull-ups this day, so I would do a set of pull-ups, and then after that, I would go into my stretch. And I'd start out by doing a calf stretch, which all I did was go up against the wall, put one foot back, one foot a little closer to the wall, and try to get far enough that your heel isn't touching the ground yet, but your goal is to push against the wall and try and get your heel to touch the ground. You should really feel the stretch in the back of the calf. And if you can touch the ground with your heel, try to move your leg a little further back while keeping your arms at the same height. From there, I'll go into a lunge stretch and basically just get your leg at a 90-degree angle and just try and get your forearm onto the ground. I feel like this is the best measurement to seeing how far you can get into the stretch. If you can get your forearm onto the ground, try and get your leg further into a split position by moving a little closer to straight out in front of you. And every time you do it, just try to get your arm onto the ground, and once you're able to do that, move your foot a little bit further. From there, I try to get my leg flat across my body in front of me, and then I'll try to bend down and touch my body to my leg. This stretch you'll really feel in your glutes as well as your hips. Also, if you have any past knee injuries, just be careful with this stretch as it's not an ideal position to put your knee in. From there, I'll lean back, sit on my heel, put my one leg forward, and just try and reach for my toes. Just a normal toe stretch, but sit on your heel this time. Then after a little bit of that, I take my heel out and put it right next to my leg, so I'm sitting down, and then I reach for my toes again. And I do this just so I'm prepared and warmed up to getting to the full stretch, as it makes it easier as you slowly move into a stretch as opposed to jumping right into it. Also, when doing a stretch where you're reaching for your toes, don't bend with your back. Instead, focus on bending at your hips. This way, you're gonna feel a lot more of a stretch in your thighs instead of your back, and you're also gonna be able to stretch a lot further, and you might even be able to touch your toes if you haven't before. And that's the end of the first set of stretches. From there, I'll do a set of the calisthenics workout and then jump right back into it with another set of stretches, starting with the butterfly stretch. So in this stretch, you're just gonna put your feet together and try and get your heels as close to your body as you can, as well as using your elbows to push down on the sides of your legs. Every time you do this, just try and get your feet as close as possible to you and try to get your legs flat on the ground. And then from there, I'll put both feet out and just try and do a double foot, try and touch my toes. This is going to be easier after doing the single leg stretches, which is why I try to do those first and then get into it. It makes it a lot easier the further down the line. And then going back to the concept of seeing constant progression through weights increasing when you weightlift, in stretching, try to see where you're reaching in your body. If you can touch your toes, the next time you try to stretch, try and grab around your toe. If you can grab around your toe, try and fully grasp the side of your foot. And every time you do it, just try to stretch a little bit further and keep track of how far you've stretched. From there, I'll do the opposite stretch by putting both legs out. And first, I'll reach to one side with my opposite arm over, trying to reach my foot. And not only will this give you a leg stretch, but you're also gonna feel it in your sides as well. And I do this on both legs. And from there, I'm just gonna try and bend forward as far as I can. Now, I have trouble forcing myself to bend at the hips normally, so I'll grab my socks and pull myself forward in order to actually feel the stretch when I do this. Now, that's the end of the second set of stretches, where in between, I'll do a calisthenics workout, and then I'll go into the third set, which starts out with just reaching for your toes, standing up. Just try and focus on bending at the hips and getting as far down as you can. Then from there, I'll sit down, put one leg over the other, and try to just do a back stretch in the direction of the leg that's crossed over the other. And to get a real deep stretch, try and push off that leg that's crossed over and really feel it in your back. And then from there, instead of switching legs, I just take that same position and lay down on my back, and I really feel the stretch in my glutes. Also, this is a great time to roll out your back too, because you can kind of isolate individual areas where you might have knots, and it's a great way to roll out while getting a stretch at the same time. And then from there, I'll do the opposite leg. Then moving on to the fourth and final set of stretches, they're all yoga positions. And the first one is cow position. So you're just gonna go on your hands and knees and try and arch your back towards the ground and breathe in. Try to really inflate your stomach and really feel it in the arch of your back. From there, you're gonna arch in the opposite direction while breathing out into cat position. And if you wanna get a deeper stretch in cat position, move your hands closer so you're arching your back a lot more. And then from there, I'll do these stretches about 5 times in total, where I'll finally finish with child's pose. And from here, you're just gonna sit back, getting your legs as wide as possible, kind of similar to butterfly, but facing the opposite way. And you're gonna really wanna focus on sinking into this stretch so you really feel it in your hips. And I feel this is a nice way to finish out because it's a nice relaxing position where you could just focus on breathing and getting a deep stretch. And that's my stretching routine that's got me consistently closer to being as flexible as Bruce Lee. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and ring the bell notification. I'll catch you in the next video.